Recognizing the global implications of what we do, our next speaker, Kelly Alexander, is a monitoring and evaluation advisor for the Integrated Nutrition Program at CARE, a major international humanitarian agency based in Atlanta, delivering emergency relief and long-term international development projects. Please join me in welcoming Kelly Alexander.
Mary and her daughters have to walk farther for water each year. The girls spend less time in school, and Mary spends less time tending to her ever less productive land. In order to have one less mouth to feed, Mary sends her oldest daughter away to the city in hopes of her finding work. Oftentimes, she may end up as a sex worker. Small-scale producers such as Mary struggle to grow, catch, or buy enough nutritious food because of degraded soil, small land plots, depleted fish stocks, water scarcity, or low incomes. Women are particularly affected because they do not own their land, and they have no information about the weather, post-harvest storage techniques, or access to markets. Higher temperatures, shifting seasons, new disease vectors, and erratic rainfall pose significant challenges for small-scale food producers like Mary, who are already often one bad harvest away from crisis. Climate change is a further burden they don't need. Climate change is expected to prolong existing and create new poverty traps. At CARE, we see climate change as a study in injustice. The people most impacted and least able to cope with the impacts of climate change are the people who are least responsible for causing the problem.
Right on!
Generally, these people are living in poverty. We at CARE also see the climate change as a double injustice, specifically to women. It is women who are most often affected by the negative impacts of climate change. In the communities where we work, gender equality is core to the work we do in assisting communities with adaptations to climate change. We look at how the climate crisis impacts changes and shifts in gender roles and power relations in communities. We work with civil societies and government institutions to address the underlying causes of vulnerability, such as poor governance and gender inequality in accessing resources and basic services. We develop village savings and loans groups to improve women's economic security in the face of uncertainty. So what can we do here in Atlanta? What can we do in Georgia? We can do a lot. We can reduce emissions, we can drive less, drive more efficiently, plant trees, choose renewable energy, use less energy. We can eat locally grown foods, we can choose to buy and use things in a way that reduce the pollution used in its creation, transport, and disposal. We can choose to buy things that were created or sold in a fair, just, and sustainable manner. Call your representatives and let them know that climate change is a serious issue. Vote for those who take it seriously and demand changes to the way businesses and factories are run and the policies of our government here in Georgia. Be a voice. Be a voice for the injustice and a voice for the vulnerable. At the Climate Summit in Paris, we demand that all actions to tackle climate change advance gender equality and human rights. We demand a significant commitment to reduce emissions. We demand that there is adequate financial support for the countries and the vulnerable populations to adapt to the impacts of climate change. Climate change is not just an environmental issue. It is fast becoming the greatest human rights challenge of our time. People living in poverty who have done the least to contribute to greenhouse gas emissions are worse affected. For women and girls who live in poor conditions or belong to vulnerable groups, gender inequality often exacerbates threats from climate change by restricting access and control over resources. Gender inequality is a widespread, persistent barrier to securing a world of hope, tolerance, and social justice. Any action taken on climate change, action which is well overdue, must include considerations for vulnerable women and girls worldwide.
Thank you, Kelly. This march is part of our city's efforts to bring about positive change with regards to carbon dioxide emissions and global warming.